Let's take a look. This is a 7-round mock draft by Josh Edwards, CBSSports.com, for the Browns. At 44, they have Travis Jones, defensive tackle from the University of Connecticut. Strong hands, gets off blocks, plays down the line, sacrifices a little bit of neutral ground in space. What do you think as far as the way Travis Jones fits? He's been connected to the Browns at 44 in a couple of different mock drafts.
Yeah, I like that idea. Obviously, they need a defensive tackle as of right now. I actually, within the last hour and a half, talked to his coach at UConn because I'm going to write a story about him leading up to the draft. So I'm intrigued by him. You know, the coach raved. Lou Spanos is his name. He's a longtime coach, was in the NFL, the Steelers for a while. He was defensive coordinator at UConn, but was interim head coach last year, and just raves about Travis Jones as a player, as a person. Thinks he can be, the run stopper. He said linebackers will love having this guy in front of him. Thinks he also can push the pocket, is a pass rusher a little bit, which you'd want. He wouldn't be on the field on third downs, but you want that ability on first and second down and not just be a sit-there plug guy. So I think he's really intriguing. And depending on how the Browns address the receiver position between now and the draft, right, whether it's a trade or Jarvis Landry or they stand pat, defensive tackle could move up that list of priorities.
And again, we'll get into what you think they need to do as far as areas of positional need next segment. Third round in this mock draft, another name that's kind of familiar, John Metchie, wide receiver from Alabama. And that's a guy, if he'd have come out last year, he might have been even a little bit higher. He did have the injury, and that's probably why I went back. But could be the most talented wide receiver available at that position in the third round. What do you think of Metchie?
Yeah, I like him a lot. And he's coming off an ACL as well, just like Jameson Williams. I did a bunch of research on him yesterday because I'm hoping to talk to Nick Saban soon. I usually get Nick once a year before the draft, and Metchie was a guy I was really focused on. So I did a lot of research. A really interesting backstory. I think he was born in Taiwan and then lived in Africa for a while, then moved to Canada, and then went away to prep school in America because he thought he could be a big-time football player. Lux, isn't afraid to block, has good run after catch. There's just a lot to like. I'm not sure he gets to 78. I think he's a guy that you might have to consider at 44. That might be a little high, but if you really like him, might not get to 78, or you move up from 78 somehow to, if you really were interested in him. But he's certainly an intriguing prospect.
Yeah, and remember, those Alabama wide receivers have done pretty well in the NFL, so I'm sure that that's another thing that adds to that. All right, the compensatory third, they had Josh Paschal, edge rusher from Kentucky. Then in the fourth, they have the Browns going Cade Otton, tight end from Washington. So it would give them an option behind Bryant and Njoku. Well-balanced tight end that they feel fits the Browns scheme nicely. What do you think about Otton with the Browns?
Yeah, it's interesting, the position, right? Because like it says right there, it talks about Njoku and Austin Hooper. And I'm not sure how the Browns are going to deal with tight end moving forward. We saw them use so much 3 tight end personnel packages a year ago. And, if they went out and drafted a guy relatively high, then you say, okay, they're probably going to do it again with Njoku and whoever they draft and Harrison Bryant. But I'm not convinced they will. When we talked about this, I think they might go to more 3 receiver sets, maybe more 2 running backs with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, or you can even throw Dearness Johnson in the mix if you wanted to. So I think if they drafted a tight end real high or relatively high, and that would be, I think it would signal the offense, at least from a personnel package standpoint, isn't going to change as much as it possibly could.
The last player they had him drafting is E.J. Perry, quarterback from Brown. Not talking about him. Do you think they draft a developmental quarterback? That's something that they really haven't done yet.
No, they haven't. And I would say the time's probably right. No matter what they did as a starter, if it was Baker or if it was Deshaun Watson, they probably need to do that. And I think, it's going to be Andrew Berry's third draft. It would probably be a surprise if he didn't. Plus, because there's no succession plan needed for Deshaun Watson, but you need a succession plan at backup. right? Because you got Jacoby Brissett. It's a one-year deal. Maybe he sticks around longer. Maybe he doesn't. But it'd be nice to kind of have a young guy that you said, okay, he's been here for a bit. If he needs to play, we trust this guy as a backup, and there's just nobody kind of in the system.